Hello, welcome to the UPSC Civil Services Exam 2024 Mains Essay Discussion. The paper had 8 topics, 4 in section A and 4 in section B. We'll be taking a look at these topics together. But before that, I hope you have gone through these topics. For those who've attempted mains, you've done them nicely, you've chosen the right topic, stuck closely to the theme of the essay topic. And for the others, for those preparing for next year, I hope that you know, you've gone through the paper, you've gone through every section and decided which topic suits you. Which topic would you have written the essay on, and you have your thoughts clear on it. Now, we'll together start with the first topic and we'll discuss all. Where necessary, I will also be referring to the PYQ topics to see, what are the common themes that UPSC asks the paper on. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the first topic. The first topic given to us was forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. Forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. Now in this, whenever we start doing an essay, it is very, very important that we understand the central theme, the core idea on which your essay is going to revolve. For example, over here, the essay is on forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. So you'll see that the topic is not forests or civilizations or deserts. The topic is not forests, civilizations and deserts. Then what is the topic? So it's important to understand both parts of the topic together in one go. So for example, over here, we can very easily say that the topic's talking about civilizations. So the topic in a way is talking about civilizations. How civilizations were preceded by forests, and in their wake, they leave behind deserts. So this is the meaning of the topic. How forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. So this means wherever we find a civilization, they were earlier forests, and after the civilization, there would be a desert. Now, this thought takes us to, in a way, why desert? And why forests? It's very important to understand the topic. So here, it also, taking a note from geography and environmentalism, which says that forests provide us with resources. Forests provide us with resources. Lush green forests, they provide us with resources which are utilized in a forest, in a civilization. So these resources are used by a civilization. However, humankind, we tend to overuse and overutilize. So we overuse these resources in the civilization, which leads to their depletion. And desertification or deserts. This can be seen, there are several examples we could have started with. We have Aral Sea. Aral Sea has itself been in a way desertified, or we are losing it. It's the example, it's the best example in the world, Aral Sea. And it's also an example because it also talks about civilization. So Aral Sea was receiving water from 2 rivers, Amu Darya and Sir Darya, and both these rivers were, water was being mitigated for other uses, such as mitigated for use in irrigation, etc. So we can say 𝐼𝐶 is a good example, and we can start this essay. Forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. Having understood what the topic means, that forests represent resources, civilizations here also indicate not just usage of resources, but also overuse. Civilizations also show overuse of resources, and which leads to their depletion. Now, when we take this further, what does this imply? This also becomes a topic on human greed. So this also becomes a topic on human greed. And with this, we will take the essay topic forward. Now, what could be the arguments? We've understood the introduction. We've understood that we can give example of, depleting resources, of overutilization, etc. But now, what else does this topic become about? So we will say that in this topic, we can talk about degradation. So one of the first arguments can be degradation. When we say degradation, you could talk about degradation of not just in our environment in which we live in, but also the oceans. We'll be able to discuss that how every member, so there's this quote in the movie Matrix, where Agent Smith says something on the lines of how every member creates symbiotic relationship with nature, except human. How every member creates symbiotic relationship. So I'll write this here. Creates symbiotic relationship with nature, except human. And since it is except human, is what is the problem? That we go to a region, we utilize resources that nature has given us, and we overuse them, which leads to their depletion. So forests, human greed, symbiotic relationship leading to degradation. So one example, so when I talk about degradation due to human greed and overuse by humans, we can give an example of shifting cultivation. This is itself an example, and we can over here refer to shifting cultivation and how this shifting cultivation shows that forests precede civilization and deserts follow them. So not necessarily desert follows in a shifting cultivation, but it's also not a forest in the same pristine form in which nature had given it to us. The very dense forest is going to be replaced by less dense forest. It will not be the same pristine forest. It will not have the same biodiversity, and this is what the topic is talking about. It's talking about civilizations as the centerpiece of the essay. And by virtue of civilizations, it is humans. Humans come at the center of this essay, their usage of resources, that is forests, and it leading to desertification. Now, we've already discussed the example of shifting cultivation as well as 𝐼𝐶 in the introduction. We've discussed degradation. Then we can also say that forest precedes civilization and desert follows them is also the reason why the symbiotic relationship, not just of man and nature, is being affected, but man has managed to influence nature in a way that we call it the anthropocentric era, anthropocentrism. We could be discussing that aspect over here, anthropocentrism. Then when I said shifting cultivation or degradation, we can also take this argument forward and discuss that how the speed of rejuvenation is not same. The speed of rejuvenation of a forest is not same as the speed of rejuvenation of the forest is not same, or actually resources of the nature as the pace with which we consume it or we destroy it, which is going to lead to problems. Then there is always a possibility for you to define your own desert. In this essay, you can also say that deserts does not necessarily mean the geographical desert the way we know it, but it also means a land which has been rendered useless or incapable of supporting humans further. This is also a significance of the word desert over here. Not necessarily the geography desert as we know it, but it could also mean the human wasteland, that it's not enough to support human population. With this, so we've defined deserts as unable to support human population. With that, you'll be able to discuss this topic further. When I say unable to support human population, we can also discuss Project Nicobar and the controversy around it. That could be your next argument. When we talk about forests, civilization and deserts together, so one of the two regions in India particularly which come to mind are Andaman and Nicobar Islands as well as Arunachal Pradesh. We will be able to discuss how in Project Nicobar, the controversy is that more and more area or land is being given to, or how evergreen forest is replacing infrastructure. Evergreen forest is being replaced by infrastructure. Although we are doing afforestation, but that is being done elsewhere. So this forest land is not coming back, and that could also be one place where we can discuss that this is in the context of carbon capture and sequestration, or it will not have the same carbon sink capacity as the original forest. This could be one argument. The biodiversity is going to be lost and all the things which are going to happen. Now, after this, we can further discuss that what is man doing? If we know that desert will follow in the wake of a civilization, what is man doing? This takes us to argument number 3, where we are able to discuss that man, for example, in India, we have Campa Fund. However, the problem is same as Project Nicobar, that we do afforestation at a different place as compared to deforestation. And again, the original forest will be lost. The original vegetation will be lost. The symbiotic relationship which existed in that region is going to be destroyed. So we can talk about different measures, and we can also highlight that how this is not sufficient. There's a very famous quote by Mahatma Gandhi which says that nature has something for everyone's need, not for everyone's greed. So we will be able to use that quote here. And again, as discussed earlier, one of the important points in this essay become need and greed, human greed. How civilizations, how humans tend to overuse, which is what is being represented by civilizations. And eventually, we can even discuss, apart from Campa Fund and schemes that government has, or globally, the attention that is being given to ensure that forests converting to civilizations or land for man does not convert to a desert. There has been global discussions, global action is being taken, and not just discussions. There's been technology transfer to ensure that this does not happen. You will be able to talk about intergenerational parity, how we have not inherited the earth from our ancestors, but it's a loan from our future generation. So we will be able to talk about intergenerational parity. After this, one last aspect which we should be discussing in this essay will be that how it's not just forests. Human greed has not been limited to forest. We have even covered oceans. And you can talk about rainforests of the ocean, which is the corals. You can talk about oceans, rainforest of the ocean, which is the corals, the coral bleaching, mass bleaching of corals, about mass killing or mass dying of sharks and dolphins, which come up on the shores of countries. These can be discussed, and we'll be able to discuss how forests precede civilization and deserts follow them. Once this happens, we will go forward and we'll be able to conclude as a middle path. In the middle path, we should be able to say that yes, forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them, but there are also civilizations which have been very sustainable. We can talk about our own country and how we have since ancient times had practices which were aligned with nature, and how this is the right time. How this is the right time that we ensure that our practices and our beliefs, which considered Prakriti, which prayed to Prakriti, we should take this Prakriti and ensure that it is available for our children in the same way that we inherited it. So with this, we will be able to conclude this essay. I hope you understand forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them, how we could be discussing this. We come to the second topic. Now, the second topic which we have is the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. The empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. Now, a very common concern here is, it could have been a question which you had. What is meant by empires of the future and empires of the mind? So what this topic indicates is that empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. Now, what this also shows is that the empires, when I say empires of the future, so my core word is future, and how the future empire is being run by the mind. It's owned by the mind. So when we start brainstorming, the first thing we should do is we should always try to understand the topic. The first and the foremost, the way we did in the first topic. So over here, the question is, what is meant by the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind? Why and what does it mean? Now, to look at this, it means that the empires of the mind. If future is of the mind, then what is the present empire? Then what is the present? If the future is the empire of the mind, then what is the present? This becomes a question which will help us in answering. Now, if the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind, what is the present? Each one of us will have a different answer. But one thing will be common, that the empires right now have been in terms of tangible assets. It's been land, it's been money, it's been very, very tangible. But the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. Then what empires are these? And you'll be able to see that these are the empires which you would not be able to look at because it's the mind. This takes me back to a previous year topic, which is history is a series of victories won by scientific man over romantic man. This scientific man in a way is the mind. History is a series of victories won by scientific man over romantic man. In a way, Not exactly, definitely not exactly, but taking a note from, taking a leaf or an idea from this topic, we can say that scientific man is the mind. Scientific man is who determines what is logic and rationality. He tells us, he speaks about logic and rationality. The scientific man, the mind. Now, why the topic? The empire of the future will be the empire of the mind. Can I say in this topic that the topic also talks about how empire of the future, can we also say that it talks about technology? It talks about the changing way we are working in doing business. So if I say that empires of the future will be the empires of the mind, we will also be able to discuss this in the context of artificial intelligence, advancements in technology. We'll be able to discuss this in the context of artificial intelligence, advancements in technology. We'll be able to look at the GAFA, the Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, how these have disrupted, how technology has been disrupted by how this technology has disrupted us, our work. And with that, we'll be able to discuss and understand this topic. Now, taking this forward, we have the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. So we talk about the scientific man and the romantic man. From there, we understand that this scientific man has made it possible. It has made mind. It has given us logic, rationality, made us practical. And with this, we will also further be able to talk how once upon a time, when wars were fought, they were fought for land. Then came industrial revolution, and Britain, the Great Britain, they captured the world after the industrial revolution. So we can talk about Britain. It captured the world after industrial revolution. Then USA with its innovation. Britain had the resources, and then there was mind. Please notice the mind in the industrial revolution, and it captured the world. Then we had USA, which is an innovation-based economy, and how they have literally become the influencers of the world. They influence world economy. Influencers. They are the influencers, what we call as neo-colonialism. And this can be discussed, and how it's all in the mind. It's all about the mindset. Then we'll also be able to discuss this topic in the context of wars are won before they are fought, or rather battles are won in the mind first and then at the border. Why? Because it's the mind. So the empires of future will be the empires of the mind, also takes a leaf from this topic. And we'll be able to say that it is also because in the mind, when we talk about mind, we influence it. And this influence is deep. This influence is deep. It is very difficult. It is a rational influence. For example, you can take example of from good to bad. For example, over here, we will be able to discuss this topic in the context of good to bad. I would say that even the, for example, Mahatma Gandhi being able to influence with his ideas of satyagraha and non-violence. And further on, to Hitler, who could also influence people, an entire population, with the ideas that that they should be exterminating the Jews legally. You could even talk about rationalism. You could even talk about 𝐂𝐸𝐸𝐿, fundamentalism, and how all of them are influencing the mind, but in a negative manner. Why? Because mind is a very powerful tool. The empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. You will be able to discuss this. After this, so we have looked at the topic. I'll quickly do a recap. We have understood that this topic has future lies in the person who runs the mind. We have understood it in the present context. We have logic, rationality as the aspects which mind controls. It makes us practical. Then we discussed how mind influences us. It has the ability to lead, to start, or spark an entire revolution. We discussed how Mahatma Gandhi, a positive influence of the mind to Hitler, 𝐂𝐸𝐸𝐿, and fundamentalism. The negative influence on the mind, but both equally successful. So mind becomes the all-powerful tool and in a way central to the essay. After this, we will also be able to discuss that how AI is the new electricity and how it is this AI and these disruptive technologies which are nothing else but they are influencers of the mind, especially through Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, through social media. And it is over here that we will be able to influence our mind and rule. So the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind. They would not be separated by land border, because for the mind, land borders do not exist. Land border does not exist. It is the mind. And mind is know-it-all. It is a very, very powerful tool. After this, we can also discuss that over here we discussed how borders have become useless when it comes to the mind, because there can be a movement in one part of the world, it will be immediately be known in the other part and will have followers, and it will be influencing, that is. Now on the same end, we can also talk about mind being intangible. So the problem with this, the problem with the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind, is that this mind is intangible. And since it is intangible, the impact is deep. So we can say this, it's deep because the mind is intangible. We do not know till what percentage has it been written or what has the influence been. However, this brings us to the positive aspect, where we will also be able to say that since it is intangible, we can do this till any extent. We can govern our mind, means even if it's been naxalized or there's fundamentalism or radicalization, we can de-radicalize our mind. We can again write over. So empires of the future will be the empires of the mind, which brings in the importance of value system. It brings in the importance of morals, and not just value education, but having values in the community. At large. This can also be discussed over here. Now, with this, we will be able to conclude this essay, and we'll be able to say that mind is a very powerful tool. With the advent of tools like artificial intelligence, social media, which have been making us a consumer, which is making us dependent. Man has become a tool of his tools. It is going to be very, very important that we continue to depend on our own mind and use it. And with this, we will be able to end this essay. The importance and significance of knowing that it is man who has created these tools and how man should use his own rationality without any bias. We come to the next topic, the third topic. Now, the third topic of section A is happiness. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Now, this topic, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path, clearly talks about happiness as the central idea. So, the central idea that we have is clearly happiness. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Now, in this central idea, we should, in a way, this central keyword, happiness, which should be written properly, happiness. So, for this central keyword, happiness, we will be able to talk about what is the topic saying about happiness. You'll have to wonder, what is it saying? There is no path to happiness. There is no path leading to happiness. Happiness itself is the path. So what this is saying is, being happy is being in the moment. Happiness lies being in the moment. So when we say that, we will be able to discuss happiness in the present and the future context, past, present, and future. And how the problem is that most of us tend to regret the past. We live in the present. So when we are in the present, we regret the past or we fear the future. But we forget the present. We forget that we live in a particular moment. We are either regretting the past or fearing the future in anticipation for better something. But we forget. So this could also be one of the key ideas in this topic. Now after this, what does this topic say? So this is one of the first arguments. To introduce, you could have used a very simple anecdote of a street child, of a child who's playing on the road with almost no resources. He just has few stones, let us say, or pebbles to play with. Yet he's very happy, as if he's found the world. As if he's found the world. And why? Because happiness is being present in the moment. Happiness is the path. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Now, I can discuss this topic. So this was one argument. How we do not live in the moment. Happiness in the moment. Now, the second thing that we can discuss in this topic is how happiness is intrinsic to a person. How happiness is intrinsic to a person. It is a mindset. There can be two people in the same situation, absolutely same situation. One person can still be satisfied and the other cannot be. So, happiness is intrinsic to a person. It is a mindset. And at the same time, it has no formula. It has no formula. That is happiness. Now, when we discuss this, please go back to a PYQ topic. The philosophy of wantlessness is utopian and materialism is a chimera. Philosophy of wantlessness is utopian and materialism is a chimera. If we notice, this topic also says that it's talking about wantlessness and materialism. But how is that relevant to us? When we say wantlessness, let's write this over here. When we say wantlessness, and materialism. Basically, it's also reflecting a person who's trying to be these. Philosophy of wantlessness is utopian. So we just want to be wantless, or materialism in the desire, this topic's central theme was also desire. In the desire for more, let's say, more satisfaction, for feeling more peaceful, feeling more happy. And again, happiness is not a path, happiness is the path. There is no journey. So you don't have to want to be wantless or materialism. You will just have to be present today to be happy. This is what the topic indicates. Happiness is the topic says happiness is living in the moment. Now, with this and the understanding of this topic, that how it is in a way talking about something which infringes on happiness. It is desire. Again, it's greed, which makes us want something else, either in the past or in the future, and we're not happy today. And we can talk about how comparison is bad. We can talk about how this comparison is bad, and how it makes us compare, regret, and fear. Because when we compare with the past, we are regretting. And then you can also talk about this comparison is bad because it does not let us appreciate quality. We often talk about quantity. How many followers do you have on Instagram? How many likes did you get? How many views were there? People making reels and scrolling them mindlessly. That's not happiness. So happiness also lies in quality over quantity. This is also going to be an idea of happiness. Quality over quantity. And we can conclude this essay with a very simple quote by Rajesh Khanna ji, which is "Zindagi lambi nahi honi chahiye, badi honi chahiye." And it is this where he says, where he shows his happiness, that it's not about the quantity as much as it was about quality, and it was about being today. So there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Being happy today is the path. And this is how this topic could be discussed in the context of seizing the moment, seize the day. And we'll be able to discuss this. With this, we come to the fourth topic for the discussion. I hope you've been understanding that the aim of every topic, the aim of this discussion is not to give you a bulk or a handful of examples and quotes, but to help you understand how to approach the essay. Once this has been established, you'll be able to find examples from around you. You'll be able to find examples from around you, from what you've studied as a part of your GS, and you'll be able to use them in your exam, in your essay paper. The first and the foremost thing would be generating arguments, and arguments come from our understanding of the topic. Now with this, we move to the next topic, which is the doubter is a true man of science. It's a very, very simple topic. The doubter is a true man of science. Now, when we look at this topic, the doubter is a true man of science, what does it mean to you? So it's, of course, talking about two things. It's talking about a person who is a doubter, and it's talking about science. The doubter is a true man of science. Now, when I talk about these two, the doubter is a true man of science, what does it mean? This topic means that one of the key ideas is what has led to evolution of science is curiosity. What does being a doubter mean? It means a person who is curious, who keeps asking a lot of questions. And it is this curiosity and ability to ask questions which has led to evolution, of science. So we can start this with showing evolution of science itself, where we'll be able to say that from industrial revolution 1, or rather when man invented the wheel, to steam engine, to aircrafts flying, to going in the outer space. We did that because we were doubting, because we were questioning what lies there. What lies, if birds can fly, why can't we? How can we fly? And similar things. And it is this which led to man being able to fly. And it is this curiosity, this questioning, or I could say this sense of being inquisitive, inquiry, having this ability to inquire for everything, which has led to development of science. And when we say development of science, we are not only talking about science the way the physics, chemistry, and the maths and biology. We're also talking about geography. Why did geography develop? Because someone somewhere was curious on how the weather changes, or what is this climate. We were curious about the rising and the setting of the sun. We were curious about so many things, is what led to development of science. So only people who have managed to question have led to development of science. We have discussed this, and we've been able to say that this development of science is not just physics, chemistry, maths, and bio, but it is everything, including geography, political science, anthropology, because we are questioning. Once we have established this, you will also be able to wonder what else. Now, when we talk about evolution, you'll be reminded of a previous year topic. There are better practices to best practices. There are better practices to best practices, and that can also be discussed here, of how this has led to evolution. Better to best itself is talking about evolution, though not, of course, not science and not being doubtful, but ideas from there can be used in this. And how doubter is a true man of science. Now let's look at the word true. Why is there a word which says true in this? A true man of science. Because science has many aspects. Science has rationality, logic, but all of them start from one place, which is a question. Why and how? Because science has many aspects. It is logical, it is rational, practical, but it starts from one place, which is why. It is this why which helps us in answering the question. Science. Now with this, we'll be able to discuss what is this why, and is it necessary? Yes, it is necessary. It is only then that we do not maintain the status quo. And over here you will be able to give example of nature, for example, that even in nature we are not representing. The nature is also constantly evolving, and there's no status quo. Change is the only constant. So this topic can be discussed in all of these aspects, and how we have to keep on questioning, and how it is because of this why, because of this true nature of why, that theories came. Several theories came and they were discarded. Why? Because we kept questioning. Because we kept questioning, we did not just stop. Once we had an answer, we didn't stop. We kept questioning and wondering what is the right answer. You can give several examples. We can give example of Galileo. We can give example of Copernicus, Aryabhat. People, thinkers, philosophers across the board who kept questioning. Now, with this, one last thing which we should also cover, or we could be covering in this essay, is our questioning. That how all these people, which, for example, I said Galileo. For example, Galileo, and how all of these can be discussed only in the context of how all of these can be discussed, were able to succeed only because they were questioning and they had the moral courage. And they had the morality or the courage to stand firm on what they thought and what they believed in. And how only that person is the true man of science. Not all men, not all doubters are true men of science. It is the men who also have the courage. That's also needed. Only doubting? No, only doubting does not make us true men of science. We also need courage. Courage to put forth our point, our argument, and stay firm on it. With this, we will go to our next topic. The next topic talks about social media is triggering FOMO, or the fear of missing out. Social media is triggering fear of missing out amongst the youth, precipitating depression and loneliness. So in a way, this topic is about social media. Social media is triggering FOMO, or the fear of missing out, amongst the youth, precipitating depression and loneliness. सोशल मीडिया युवाओं में छूटने का डर पैदा कर रहा है, जिसके कारण उनमें अवसाद और अकेलापन बढ़ रहा है. When I look at this topic, it's clearly about what's happening in the present time. It's about social media, definitely. When we say social media, we're not just talking about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're also talking about all the applications, the games like Pokemon, and how it's leading to FOMO, the fear of missing out. So in a way, when you address this topic, we are not going to only give examples which show FOMO. Fear of missing out is FOMO. I will write that here, FOMO. How it is not just about FOMO, but it's also about several other things. And we'll be able to discuss over here that this social media has made our youth consumer. It has made our youth dependent. Consumer of other person's ideas, others' ideas. Not think. Screen addicted to the screen. You can, if you travel by public transport, be it in a city or smaller towns, you will see that everybody's just has a smartphone in their hand. Every youth has a smartphone in their hand, and they're just scrolling through it. And the content is not being filtered. The content has not been filtered, and which can be very triggering also. So we can say that this social media has made our youth a consumer of others' ideas. It's made the youth dependent on others. This reminds us again of a PYQ. The discovery of self-discovery has been technologically outsourced. PYQ. Again, self-discovery has been technologically outsourced. The topic does not directly talk about it, but the topic in a way communicates of how self-discovery has been talking about technology. And which technology have we outsourced it to? One of the most important, social media. And this social media has also made it a part of fake news, influencer culture, reels and likes. This is what's happened, reels and likes. So all of these things can be discussed, and how there has been this American thinker who even spoke about social media and how there is a need to ban it in schools. So we can also discuss this in the context of social media ban for the youth. But can this ban be done by one person, one parent, one family? No. It has to be done at a more societal level to protect our youth from unwarranted influence at a very tender age. There has been research which shows that there is a rewiring of brain. This rewiring of brain has led to influence on the health as well as relationships which are being harbored in the society, as well as particularly the youth. So it impacts relationships, it impacts their health. There have been instances of overuse, of how due to scrolling people have pain in their thumb or hunchback. These can also be discussed. And it's again, so although it is precipitating depression and loneliness, but it's also having very physical symptoms also. Now, when we talk about depression and loneliness, we can talk about how social media makes us lonely even when we're in a crowd. It makes us lonely even when we are in a crowd. Lonely in a crowd. And this leads to depression and loneliness. How you cannot trust anyone. How there is a peer pressure to perform. And with this, we can also talk about advancements in artificial intelligence, which have been very important. Why? Because artificial intelligence, as it gains prominence, is replacing friends. You can just hire artificial intelligence. There have been studies where you can hire a friend to speak to in the form of artificial intelligence, and the responses are probably better than humans, is what the report said. So there is a need that we refire or reignite our relationships. We take time off from the screen, we ban the social media, and we focus on outdoor games and experiences, and which are more tangible. Instead of focusing too much on technology. With this, we will be able to talk about the next topic. The next topic is the sixth topic, or the sixth question from the exam. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but to test the character, give him power. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but to test the character, give him power. Now, in this topic, we can talk about, we can start about through several examples. We can talk about Mussolini, Hitler, and how when they were given power, they were brilliant leaders, and how when they were given powers, their character was tested. So they could not stand that adversity. So nearly all men can stand adversity. So they will all perform, they will all come out. But to test their character, their actual character, you give them power. We've discussed the example of Mussolini and Hitler, and how adversity. So now this brings us to the actual question, again, the understanding of the topic. What does adversity mean? Adversity actually also means that there is a need for survival or an ability to choose. So what is this adversity? What is this adversity? Adversity is the need to choose. Adversity gives us the need, the ability to choose. I'm sorry. It gives us this ability to choose. The ability to choose. It gives us a need for survival. We want to survive and we try to find the best solution out of a problem. That's what an adversity is. And but is it always going to be that? No, it's not always true. Is it always going to be that there is adversity, which is these two? Every person can survive, but if you want to test their character, you give them power. But then there have been people who have been on the other side of Mussolini and Hitler. We have Nelson Mandela. We have Mahatma Gandhi. I'll write him as MKG, Mahatma Gandhi. And they have been given power. They have been in an adverse situation, but they chose wisely. They also had a need for survival, but they followed the utilitarian principle instead of following principle for their own needs, This shows us how it is not necessary that a person in the face of adversity will falter, as was done by Hitler and Mussolini. This means that what is the real test? The real test is not the adversity. It is the power. Power is the true test of a character. Power. This power. Adversity is for all. But power is the true test. It is the ultimate test. Ultimate test of character. It is this power. Ultimate test of character. In this ultimate test of character is when you will be able to see it's like a magnifying glass. It is like a magnifying glass where you will be able to see yourself. Magnifying glass of self. Because it will show you your actual desires, who you really are. A test of character. Why? Because it's a magnifying glass of self. So, which can be very give you freedom, but it can also be enslaving. Now, when we discuss this, we'll also be able to say that how adversity is never by choice. It happens with one needs to survive through it, to deal with it. It's a reactive response. So what is adversity? It is not that I want adversity, let me get it. No. Adversity does not happen by choice. It is a person's response for survival. And now with this, however, power is earned and achieved. So adversity nobody wants, but power we earn and achieve. So they are like two ends of a spectrum. Adversity, it's something which comes to me. It is not by choice, it happens. Whereas adversity happens. Whereas a power is earned. This power is earned. Can also be a discussion over here. When it is earned, we can even talk about powerful countries that need to be responsible. For example, USA, which is the most powerful economically. But what if it was North Korea? How would North Korea react if it had the economic prowess of USA? It is its responsibility to act responsibly. So in a way, we can talk about how it is going to be very important to use this power in a very ethical manner. When we discuss this ethical usage of power, when we discuss this ethical use of power, you will be able to do this in a very simple context of not only GS4, but more as a society being responsible, not because it's enforced on us, not because we are expected to be responsible, but because we should be responsible, because that is what we should be. With this, you will also be able to discuss that there is a need for self-regulation, role modeling, setting precedents. Then there is another way of discussing this topic. We've discussed the ethical use, we've discussed self-regulation, etc., to ensure that power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Again, a very similar topic. Power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. That could have also been discussed here. Next that we can discuss in this topic is how adversity tests our fortitude, our ethics, how adversity tests our perseverance. Everything. It tests our morals and values. And how power gives us an autonomy and the power to use those morals and values. Once you have the power, it is a choice whether you want to use them or not. You want to retain them or not. So we can discuss this topic as that. With this, we conclude this essay, and we can say that the one who is not entrusted with power should have strong ethical character, or actually those who are entrusted with power. Even though you have power, it is your responsibility to have strong ethical character, accountability. How you should have strong ethical character, accountability, responsibility, not because it was forced on you, but because you are, not because it's expected, it's forced, but because you want to be. Only when you want to be is when you'll be able to sustain that power, and it is going to be sustainable in the long run. This is what heroes are made of. And we can give examples, as discussed earlier, of Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi. Now, in this essay, we can even talk about international organizations such as United Nations, IMF, World Bank, WTO. These organizations also have power. They have also been working with global countries. However, they have been responsible. They have an objective laid down. Their character has been tested time and again. And this is a time when United Nations Security Council is also being asked for reforms. And it is then that its character actually comes to test. When we say its character, we also talk about the powerful countries, or we talk about the countries that have a permanent veto. And how it is the responsibility of all the countries together to ensure that our global order is maintained with the help of these reforms. We can discuss this topic like that. Now, when we go forward, you'll also be able to say that adversity is humbling and power is tempting. And with this, we end our essay. We conclude our essay by saying that adversity is tempting. Adversity is tempting and power is humbling. Sorry, I've said this the other way. Adversity humbles a person, whereas power tempts a person. And it is this reason why we should not be tempted. We should recognize power for what it is and behave responsibly. And with that, we'll be able to address. I'll write this adversity, and this was for power. Power and adversity. And with this, we'll be able to conclude this essay. The 7th, the topic reads as, all ideas having large consequences are always simple. All ideas having large consequences are always simple. All ideas having large consequences are always simple. This topic is very, very similar to a PYQ topic. I hope everyone knows this already. And the PYQ topic that it is similar with is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Over here, sophistication is the large consequences, ideas with large consequences, sophistication, and simplicity. So all ideas having large consequences are always simple. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I hope you had brainstormed this topic because it's a topic from 2020. Few of you might have written that essay. And again, in an essay, it's going to be very, very important that you deal with the arguments and not the examples. Examples will still be plenty. It is the arguments which are going to be very, very, very important. So the topic is all ideas having large consequences are always simple. So there are few words which can be discussed here. How it is about all ideas are always. How all ideas having large consequences are always simple. In this essay, we discuss simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. We talk about simple. And we discuss that why do all ideas that have large consequences, why are they always simple? And one of the answers that you will find is because it is only simple ideas. For example, the idea which Mahatma Gandhi had, the idea of Nelson Mandela, the idea of Thomas Edison, the idea of Newton with the falling apple. You know, everybody could see an object falling and they understood gravity. They understood what he's trying to say. Probably not in scientific terms and not scientifically, but still they could. They knew that there is something which is making an object fall to the ground. With Mahatma Gandhi, everybody knew that there is a reason and it appeals to them. Why? Because it is simple. So simple ideas are easy to understand. They are easy to understand and implement. And this makes those ideas large consequences. And this is the reason that they have large consequences. So all ideas having large consequences are always simple. All ideas having large consequences are always simple. With this, we will be able to discuss that not just these ideas, but also the ideas, what else does simple mean? So when we say simple, it also means easy to understand, comprehensible, it means an idea which is very sophisticated. Why? Because to make it simple, you break it down so much. You break it down so much that it becomes, it's like the core of the idea, you know, the crux of the story, moral of the story, and which makes it very easy to understand, leading to more people being able to follow it, and it having large consequences. Now, with this, we'll also be able to say that, is it always simple? And the answer is no, it is not always simple. There are going to be ideas which are not going to be always simple. For example, we can discuss this as always simple. Actually, I should write first. Always simple is not necessary. And there are two reasons for this. First reason, who is the subject? Simple for whom? The same differentiation integration might be simple for a class 12 or a mathematics honor student. It will be difficult for a school child or for a junior. So it depends on the subject who's trying to understand it, and it also depends on what is being explained, on what, or rather the subject matter, on what. Subject is the who is explaining and what is being understood. With this, we will be able to say that, for example, when I said who, I took an example of a mathematics theorem which nobody understands. On the other hand, when I say a what, for example, I cannot break down the DNA beyond a certain level, or gene theory, or medicine, or the understanding of advanced mathematics. It cannot be broken down. But a simple idea can be, Earth is nothing but a blue dot. There was this video from a photo from Voyager. I was seeing this on the internet. It showed Earth as nothing else but a simple blue dot. So an idea of Earth being a simple blue dot as visible from space, to Earth being a part of millions of a galaxy, which is a part of millions of galaxies. Our galaxy has n number of suns, etc., etc., etc. So we can make it complicated, and we can also simplify it. The same fact, but it also depends on the reason why we are doing this. So all ideas which have large consequences are always simple. We've understood that, is it always simple necessary? And we said no, because who and what. Then we'll also be able to understand what are meant by consequences. Is large consequences always important? Do simple ideas always have large consequences? I can give you an example. It just came to my mind. An apple for a day makes you, keeps the doctor away. As children, we've all heard this. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And it has a very large consequence. So why do simple ideas have large consequence? Because they resonate. They resonate with you. This could also be an argument. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Large consequence, everybody is able to understand and follow. It's been broken down into a language which is understood by all. Another example, 4 gaj ki duri hai zaruri. During COVID-19. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan also has its own jingle. Why? Because this relates to people. It creates an impression. So we can say that these simple ideas, they create an impression in the mind of the listener or the viewer or the user, which leads to larger consequences in terms of them being adopted. But this also has a repercussion, because very simple ideas of hatred, anger can also be passed on. So it's not just good ideas that get passed on, but it's also the ideas of hatred. And this is what makes it very, very important and necessary to make sure that we leave the right impression with the right approach. Again, we go back to the previous topic, adversity, power. It's about your power to communicate that simple idea, which should be done reasonably, ethically, in a very humbling manner, without any temptation for self-benefit, or in a utilitarian manner. And with that, we'll be able to discuss this. We come to the last topic. Let's discuss the last topic for this exam. The topic's also on your screen. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. Again, it's a very simple topic. We see that all topics this year were very philosophical, I should say, because we didn't have, though we had forests in between, but even that was very analytical. So there's been a clear shift in the topics that we have towards analytical. This year, not a single topic had those GS keywords as well, which could make a topic very doable. Okay. So the GS keywords were missing, which brings us back to the topic. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing, which is गलत होने की कीमत कुछ ना करने की कीमत से कम है. Which brings us to the action orientation. This topic, just like other topics in the past, the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Proactive action. Ship is safe in harbor, but that is not what ship is for. Asking the ship to be in the sea. Action. This topic also talks about action. It says the cost of being wrong. So it's better. So when you do something or when you take an action, you can be right, you can be wrong. It says this is better than not doing something. You do not do something, this is wrong. It's better to be wrong, but at least you tried. Again, there are better practices to best practices. Again, it talks about change, it talks about action, it talks about evolution. Then the other two topics which I listed, all of these talk about your desire to work, to change, to take an action, proactive action. Why? Because best is the enemy of good. Because you keep waiting, you keep thinking, I'm going to bring in only the best effort, I'm going to do only the best. It's not going to happen. It's only when you actually do something, it might be wrong, but there's going to be an outcome. So you do something, it might be wrong, but at least you have grown. What have you learned here? You have acquired experience. And experience, most of you would quote Edison here, because Edison shows that how he failed. Some people say 1,000, some students write 10,000. Irrespective, he failed numerous times but did not give up. It talks about perseverance and patience. It talks about consistency and how every time he learned how to not make a bulb. So it is experience. It talks about experience, which is going to be very important. With this experience, we learn different things. And this is also how you innovate. It leads to solutions. Because if you don't start from the home, you will never reach your destination. This is also a quotation which is very similar to the topic. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. I hope you've understood this topic. Now, in this topic, we will also be able to talk about how evolution, I would really want to mention that how evolution is inherent in nature. Nature does not stop. It is in evolution, or change is inherent in nature. If we stop changing, evolution, what is evolution? This is also improving. And how improving? By doing something. Improving by doing something. So this evolution can also be done. Why? Why it is the cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing? Because otherwise, if you do nothing, you become stagnant. When we become you become stagnant. And when we become stagnant, we stop growing and we rot. Change is the only constant, and all the articles that you've done in this context. We can even talk about better to best practice, which talks about evolution, constantly doing something, the cost of doing nothing, and the cost of being wrong. We can talk about perfection is not a destination, it's a journey, and finish line is where it begins. This is also a quotation which says perfection is not a journey. It begins at the finish line. So it's always happening. So the cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. And we have many examples. We have examples from personalities where you will be able to say that it's very important to have checks and balances, but then it's our responsibility as the citizens. Just giving a very diverse example, checks and balances. How it is our responsibility as citizens to ensure that something's being done. Cost of being wrong. We might be wrong, but at least we questioned. This questioning can lead to innovation. It can lead to innovation. It can lead to checks and balances. It can lead to rights being addressed. So the cost of doing nothing is less, cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing, because when you do nothing, you cannot expect anything. You have transferred the power. You are stagnant. Status quo is being maintained. There's no growth. There's no evolution, which is itself a law of nature. It's inherent. And with this, I hope you've understood the important topics, the 8 topics, and how they should have been done. I will again say I did not focus too much on examples. This is only a brief discussion on the possible arguments, on the approach to understanding these 8 topics so that we can address them better. It's very important that we bring to the exam our analysis, our positive attitude, our ability to understand and look at a topic from different perspective, because it is this which gets us those marks. Our aim is not to give 10 pages of examples, but an analysis into our personality and mind to show how do I think differently from the other person. I hope you've understood these and will be able to take them, write an essay on these. If you've not written an essay, this is a good time when you should try to write. Consolidate your points. This is a rough map. Please consolidate your points and be able to write that essay. Thank you.